Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. When it comes to Errol Spence, Jermell Charlo, and Derrick James, even if these two were to fight, and someone was to win, it would still end up being a loss for somebody. This is the triad right here. You have two fighters, you have one trainer. And now there's a huge buzz going around, and see, this is where, boy, when people get involved, especially these media outlets and these guys who have to try to make a name for themselves, and they have the YouTube channels and they're reporting on boxing, they got to ask the tough questions, but it's not often they get something really juicy that they can run with. And right now, there's something that's brewing out there. And I think it's going to bubble over. And I think it's going to create a serious rift in that camp with Derrick James, Jermell, and Errol Spence. You see, one thing that a lot of people were aware of this, but some weren't. I wasn't. Not everybody, some people knew that back in when they were amateurs, Jermell defeated Errol Spence. Okay? Don't know if it was knockout or whatever, but he defeated him. I thought it was knockout, but he beat him. Now that's something that I just don't think Jermell should have disclosed, because there are a lot of people who weren't aware of that. And it was something that was never brought up. Let me grab this water real quick. Right? It was never brought up, never talked about. Drink alkaline water is good for you. But now that it's come out, and Errol Spence being asked the questions, hey man, that Jermell Charlo had beat you. He mentioned he beat you before, and Errol Spence's like, yeah, we were young back then, but it was a good fight. He beat me. Errol Spence is just real low energy most of the time. You know what I'm saying? And they asked, would you ever fight him? And he was like, a little hesitant, but because Errol thinks before he talks, especially that's his friend. And he knows they train under Derrick James. And he was just like, you know what? We're brothers, so that's what we do. Brothers break bread, so why not? If the money's right, why not? So I understand what he's saying. But Derrick James was being asked questions today. And it's going to be after, and I'm telling you, if Errol Spence beats Yugas, this is something that's going to get thrown out there to the world. I'm 100% confident they're going to, so now the fight that they're going to want to make is either Spence and Crawford to unify, but if that doesn't happen, Spence and Jermell. And that's going to create a divide in that camp, and that's going to affect their friendship. Although they're both from Texas, they consider themselves brothers, Jermell is the hothead. He's the one that will say anything. Jermell is more mature. He's a hothead too, but he got a little more sense. You can't bait Jermell like you can bait Jermell. See, Jermell doesn't know how to just shut up sometimes. You see, you got to listen a whole lot and talk very little sometimes. But that's who he is. He's an emotional person. But I just could see one of these jackass reporters framing a question a kind of way or rewording something that Spence may say and could catch him at the wrong time where he just goes off. And I don't want that. I like Jermell. I like Jermell. I like Errol Spence. I like the fact that they're themselves. I like that they're all close. Boys trying to keep Texas on the map. But I can just see a divide coming because Jermell is very prideful, and I just think the timing of a question about that is going to send this into a tailspin, and I don't want that. But I guarantee you, it's going to start. It's already happening, and it's going to happen more and more. If it's not Terrence Crawford, the fight to make is Jermell and Spence. And the thing is, it will be a great fight if they weren't under the same trainer. You're forcing Derrick James to pick. And so when they're asking Derrick James about it, he's just like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. And they would ask again, and he'll just duck into questions, man. Like, he's letting them know right now, don't even bring that to me. That's not even something I want to think about. And I think Derrick James is seeing that, man. This is a possibility. Charlo should have never said anything. And then Spence should have just said, I don't want to talk about that. You see what I'm saying? he should have just killed it, and then they wouldn't have had anything to talk about. But Jermell said, yeah, I did beat him. It was nothing, we're amateurs. He downplayed it, but he said it. And that's all these people need. And Spence said, hey, why not? That's what brothers do, they break bread, so why not fight? Shouldn't have, in my opinion, shouldn't have said that. If that's not what he wants. Because now, the same way they get annoyed with questions about Crawford, questions about his car accident, question about if he's a weight bully, his nutrition, his nutritionist, and losing 35 pounds before fights. Now he gonna have to deal with this question about Charlo. You see? So sometimes, man, you can't always be on your P's and Q's. But if somebody was to ask me a question about someone I'm close with, I immediately get on the defensive, man, and get uneasy. Because, I definitely don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm like, who are you to ask me about this person? You know what I'm saying? So they don't know quick not to ask me that anymore, because all the smile and friendliness goes out the window, because I immediately, it's like consternation over here, man, like alarm, I start to panic. I get uneasy. I get anxious. And why are you asking me that question? And I just think these guys could have handled it better, but now they just postured themselves for more of those questions that are going to make them uncomfortable. And I could definitely see this weekend, if Spence wins, those questions being asked. And it's going to be uncomfortable because you're going to be in front of, probably hundreds of thousands of people with the pay-per-view event. And, who's over there in the AT&T Stadium in Dallas. It's going to be very, very uncomfortable. And but we'll see, man, how this plays out. But I can tell you one thing, Derrick James, he doesn't want to have to do that. Remember, if he has to pick somebody to train, you know who he's going to pick. And it's not Charlo. He's going to pick Spence. You know what I mean? Like, so they're putting him in a bad position. He said, Spence, man, Spence is really his fighter. Spence made Derrick James. Derrick James not going to go turn his back on him. Charlo came along to train because of whatever he felt he wasn't getting from Rodney Shields. Came into a good situation over there, and now these two guys have made Derrick James, has made his stock shoot through the roof, man. So Derrick James is a great trainer. He has two great fighters. You guys have great personalities. Jermell Charlo a little bit, temperamental, but it's all good. But good guys, man. You watch how they are with their families, man. Boxing is one thing, but those guys are family guys, and I respect that, because at the end of the day, you step away from your job and just how you are. Because I tell my sons this, man, attitude and communication, to be able to communicate effectively, verbally and written, are the two most important things in this world, attitude and communication. And then the other two is four. They share equal importance to a certain extent, but I still think attitude and communication are the two biggest. And the other two would be discipline and responsibility. And when I think about Errol Spence and Charlo, I see that, at boxing too, but especially away from that with their families. I see the attitude, I see the ability to communicate, and I see the discipline and responsibility. So those four things, everything in life to me falls under those four things. So they kind of umbrella everything else that goes on in life. That's just my perspective. And I see it in these guys, and that's why I like them so much. But I think it puts Derrick James in a bad spot, and I think the media is just going to keep pumping fuel into this, man. And soon they're going to keep gassing it, right? And then one of these guys is going to drop a match on it, and it's going to blow up. Because I think it'd be more Charlo to say the wrong thing, or even his sibling may say the wrong thing. But anyway, leave your 2 cents. Let me know what you think. It's my opinion, man. More to come on it. But Charlo and Spence may be the fight that people are going to start clamoring for sooner than later if they can't make the Bud Crawford fight. And that's going to create big issues for Derrick James. As always, like and subscribe. Shout out to all the veterans, and I'm in the breeze.